no doubt coming to Al-Masjid to listen to something of what Allah Azza wa Jal has taught us and what His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has taught us, there is no doubt that when you come to undergo this type of worship, that you intend with this a certain matter. Every deed you do, you need to intend something. So the question that you're supposed to ask yourself, what is your intention for coming this morning? Now I give you this so that you can learn it and then you can apply it for every worship and every deed that you do. What is your intention? You need to have an intention. Then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِامْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, or وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, all deeds are by their intention. Meaning if the intention was sincere and it was righteous and it was good, then the deed a person does would be good and it would be fruitful and rewarding for him on the Day of Judgment. And if the intention was corrupt and it was bad, then that deed is going to be corrupt and bad. And the word an-niyyah, it comes from the word Noah. And Noah is actually a seed. It's the pit that is in the date. You know, the fruit, the date, and there's the stone, the pit within it. That in Arabic is called an-Noah. And so an-niyyah means a seed. And it makes perfect sense. If the seed, if you now took a seed of any fruit or any vegetable, and you got a perfect seed, and it was healthy, and its shape looked good, and you put it and planted it into the earth and watered it, most definitely a healthy tree would grow and it will produce healthy fruit. And if the seed was broken and it looked horrible in its nature, and you put it into the earth and watered it, most likely it will not produce anything. And if it does come out, it will come out with difficulty, and that will be the end of it. And that's the same matter with the intention. If the intention, which is in the heart, is a correct intention, a righteous intention, a healthy intention, then from that will sprout goodness. And there will be reward for a person. And he will see the benefit of his good intention in this life, in the grave, and in the afterlife before Allah Azza wa Jal. And if it was a corrupted intention, then he's going to see the consequence of that in this life and in the hereafter when he stands before Allah Azza wa Jal. So you coming to this lecture is a righteous good deed. Even to the point when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he would gather the women and he would attend to them and give them a lecture once a week. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would do that. And he was very keen and concerned about this matter, to educate the females of this ummah. He will gather them at the house of one of the women, and he'll attend and he'll teach them. Meaning, this is a righteous deed that even the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would show great concern to, and give out some of his time to go and educate the female companions. So the idea is, this is a righteous deed, must be accompanied with the correct intention, and the intention for every righteous deed should be, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِن يُرِيدَ إِصْلَاحًا يُوَفِّقِ اللَّهُ بَيْنَهُمَا. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says in Surah An-Nisa about the husband and wife. He said, if the husband and the wife intended reconciliation, so there was an issue between the husband and the wife, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, if they both intend to reconcile, then Allah Azza wa Jalla will grant them success and things will work out. And so in the same manner, If you intend to reconcile your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal and reform and fix your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, then most definitely Allah Azza wa Jal will grant you success when doing so. Each and every single one of us are on a path to Allah Azza wa Jal, and it's not a perfect path. It's broken. And we are in desperate need to mend our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal and reform it and fix it. What fixes our relationship with Allah? Righteous deeds. This is why righteous deeds were known as what? What are they called? Allah Azza wa Jal refers to this a lot in the Quran. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Righteous deeds are called صالحات. Why are they called صالحات? Salihat, it comes from the word salaha. Salaha. Salaha means to fix something. At-taslih. Yusallihu. It literally means to fix something. If a car is broken down, they call those workshops taslih. Taslih al-sayyarat. Fixing a car. So righteous deeds were called salihat because they fix our state. They reform and they rectify our heart and our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. So every good deed you undergo and you do and you perform, and this is no different, attending a lecture, learning about Allah Azza wa Jal, you do so with the intention of reforming and mending this relationship, that this broken relationship that we all have with Allah Azza wa Jal. Then and only, if this is an intention you have, it's a good intention, and now it's between you and Allah Azza wa Jal, how honest you are, then and only you'll find the effect of this. You'll find the goodness of this. At times a person comes to a lecture with the correct intention, and he walks out recharged and full with Iman and conscious and aware of Allah Azza wa Jal. That all started because of a good intention. Little did you know. Others come, an entire hour goes by, and he walks out the same as he walked in. Perhaps his intention wasn't in the right place. So as we said, a correct intention produces rewarding results. And so as a result, إِن يُرِيدَ إِصْلَاحًا, that's the intention. Always intend reconciliation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For every salat that you pray, you intend through this prayer that I'm reforming my relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, because that's the most important thing you have in life. No other relationship is as important as your relationship with Allah. And if you don't understand this, you'll understand it in the final moments of life before you depart this world. You'll realize then no one can do anything for you, and that everything of it is of no worth and no value. That, if you don't learn this lesson really quickly, you will most definitely learn it just before you depart this world in life. Wealth is of no benefit to anyone, of no value, of no worth. Your relatives and your friends, what's the maximum they can do? Hold your hands. And then, so the idea is, there's really no relationship. There's nothing of true value. There's nothing of true worth. Sometimes you'll see it in this life. You might be with friends, and you got used to hanging out with gatherings, laughing, joking, and then all of a sudden you receive a message and a call. Our dear friend has passed away. All of a sudden, subhanAllah, a person wakes up to reality that this world life indeed was a deception. An enjoyment but a deception, because nothing lasted in it. But your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal is that which is going to last and benefit you in this life, in your grave, and in the hereafter. Relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal never, ever, ever finishes. It continues way through into the paradise as the believers reside in what Allah Azza wa Jal has prepared for them. So you need to prioritize this kind of relationship. And you need to exert all energy and all your effort in fixing it and reforming it and rectifying it. Spend all your day at night. If you spend all your day at night, you wouldn't say that you're wasting time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us from time to time seasons of worship. And these seasons of worship are meant to bring life to the heart. And they are meant to renew and refresh this iman that is within our hearts. These seasons are meant to strengthen our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. This is what they're for. SubhanAllah, if you notice that there are 12 months of this is in the Hijri calendar, because that is the primary calendar of the believers, the Hijri calendar. And of course the Hijri calendar, it began from the migration of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's when it began. So when we say we are now 1,444 years, meaning that's exactly how long it's been since the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left from Mecca to Al-Madinah. If you notice, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شَهْرًا فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. There are 12 months in the record with Allah Azza wa Jalla. يَوْمَ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. From the day Allah Azza wa Jalla created the heavens and the earth, it has always been 12 months in the year. Nothing changed. 12 months. And these 12 months, the beginning of them, the first 5 to 6 months, you realize that there is no extra activity, there is no specific season for the believer. There's no season of worship. So you have first Muharram, then Rajab, Rabi' al-Awwal, Rabi' al-Thani, Safar, Jumad al-Awwal, Jumad al-Thani. There's no, it's not like Ramadan and Hajj. There's none of that in the first half. Then, on the 7th month, there is Rajab. That's the 7th month, Rajab. And Rajab, that begins, or that's the start of the sacred months. Either now there is a season. The believers have entered into a season, the 7th month, Rajab. And then there is Sha'ban, which is the month that we are in right now. We just started about 2 days ago. Sha'ban. Sha'ban is a season of worship. We'll speak about it. It's a season that the heart should be alive and awakened within. Then there is Ramadan, huge season. Everyone knows the importance of Ramadan. Then there is Shawwal. Shawwal is the beginning of the Hajj season. Because the Hajj is 2 months and 10 days. That's the Hajj. This is the season of the Hajj. Yes, the Hajj itself and its actions are within 6 days. But the season of Hajj begins from Shawwal. So it is Shawwal, and then Dhul Qa'dah, and then the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. That's 2 months and 10 days. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, He said, Al-Hajju ashhurun ma'lumat. Al-Hajj is a few known months, which is straight after Ramadan, immediately as soon as Ramadan finishes. The next day is the first day of Shawwal, which is the day of Eid. That's when Hajj begins. If a person went to Mecca on the first day of Al-Hajj and he did a Umrah and sat in Mecca until the days of Hajj and he did not leave Mecca, then this is considered a Umrah for his Hajj, which is known as a Hajj al-Tamattu. We've now entered the second half of the year, which is a heavy season of worship. The believer cannot afford to go through this month not knowing what is happening, what Allah Azza wa Jalla wants from him. Why are all the worships jam-packed and the season is all put together at the end of the month and at the beginning there's nothing? Sure. We said the last, we said Rajab, Sha'ban, Ramadan, Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram as well. These are 7 months of intense worship. And the majority of the beginning of the year, the rest of those 12 months, it's easy. There's no specific season of worship. And this is like the human being. This is like the life of the human being. The very first part of your life, there's nothing really. You're growing up, you're playing, there's entertainment, there's play. There's nothing really of activity for you for those first years. You learn how to pray at the age of 7. At the age of 10 it gets a little bit more serious, but still, nothing is, you're not held accountable for anything. You see that? The beginning of the year, the beginning of the 12 years, of the 12 months, there's nothing. This is like the beginning of a life of a person. There's nothing. Then, when we get into the final part, this is resembling the second part of a person's life. The second part of a person's life after he reaches the age of puberty, now it becomes serious. There is accountability and so on. And the idea is, when we come to the 9th month, which is the month of Ramadan, that's the 9th month, right? Ramadan is the 9th month of the year. And the 9th month is also the month in which a woman gives birth. Right towards the end of the 9th month, she gives birth to a newborn. And at the end of Ramadan is when a people come out of Ramadan having been cleansed from their sins and from their shortcomings. This is similar to a newborn. This is why, Wallahu A'lam, Ramadan was made in the 9th month in its relationship with the pregnancy. And then, after Ramadan, you have Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah. At the end of the year is Dhul Hijjah. That's the last month of the year. Dhul Hijjah is the month in which people around the world go to Allah Azza wa Jal, which is Al-Hajj. Al-Hajj, the main purpose of the Hajj is a meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the Hajj is. And that's at the end of the year. Meaning at the end of the life of a person, he returns to Allah Azza wa Jal to meet him. And that's what Al-Hajj is. So if you notice the 12 months, you'll find them that they are similar to how a person ages. And so now, since we've entered the second half of the Islamic year, this is a time of accountability. This is a time in which we are preparing to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we have Sha'ban, then we're going to have Ramadan, then we're going to have Ramadan, and Ramadan is going to, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala, cleanse us and purify us from our sins. And then there's only 2 more months for the actions of Hajj to begin, meaning a person now has met Allah Azza wa Jal and he has moved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's very important to understand this sequence so that you understand the importance of this month and the importance of this season that comes. And even subhanAllah, if you notice the day, it's in the same fashion, in the same way. In the day from Salat al-Fajr until Dhuhr is a huge time. There's nothing. That's like the beginning of the year, there's nothing. Then, when Salat al-Dhuhr calls, they quickly right after each other. Al-Dhuhr, wal-Asr, wal-Maghrib, wal-Isha. Then you sleep, that's death. And then you wake up for Fajr, that's resurrection. These are the 4 stages. And that's how the year is, that's how the day of a person is, and that's how the life of a person is. So in everything there is wisdom from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. Now, I hope you understood this, so it gives you like a general look at life and at worships and how Allah Azza wa Jal has managed these matters and taught us these matters. And this is a drop of the wisdom of all this that al-ulama rahimahumullah explain. Otherwise, it's true wisdom, that's knowledge only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Aydan, 12 years, 12 months of the year. The first of them And then the last 6 is where all the worship is happening. And the very end is where the people go to Hajj. And that's like their death and resurrection and meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the day is in the same fashion, we said, and a person's life is in the same way. Right now, we are in the month of Sha'ban. And unfortunately, many are heedless of this month. And this is by the word of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right now, you'll find a lot of people wanting to prepare for Ramadan. So you see a lot of lectures, how to prepare for Ramadan. Why? Or in Sha'ban. So it's like people sit and they're all awaiting Ramadan, like there's nothing. We're just waiting. People are busy shopping for Ramadan, especially towards the end of this month. People are busy making a list of who they're going to invite in Ramadan, and invitations are being sent out from now. People are busy preparing for Al-Eid. And Sha'ban goes as though it had absolute no importance and no significance. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And little did people know that Sha'ban is one of the most important months of the year. Huge events are going to happen during this month. Ramadan is the most rewarding month, but Sha'ban is the most important month. To the point that the companions radiallahu anhum, they would notice a change in the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam during Sha'ban more than any other month. Yani the hadith of Usama ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu, he would come to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, لم أرك تصم شهرا من الشهور ما تصوم من شعبان. He noticed a change in the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam during the month of Sha'ban. And he couldn't control himself but to go to the Messenger and ask him. So he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have never seen you fast a complete month after Ramadan, then the month of Sha'ban. Why are you fasting the entire month? This is one thing. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast the entire month of Sha'ban. That's the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha. كان يصوم شعبان كله. And in another narration, كان يصوم شعبان إلا قليلا. One narration says that he would fast the entire month of Sha'ban. Another narration says he would fast the entire month except a few days. Yani he might fast 28 to 29 days of this month. Why? Where is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his relationship with this month? And where are we today with this month? And where are people today with this month? So Usama radiallahu anhu asked the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's like he's asking him. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he would fast Ramadan completely. And then the other month he would fast completely was Sha'ban. And then the other month he would fast completely. Most of it was the month, Shahrullah, the month of Allah, Al-Muharram, which is the first month of the year. Had to have like a powerful start to do it fast at all. For even there is something in this month that he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast it, and there was a reason for it. And this is something that we are unaware of, and we want to find out together. He asked him this question. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam answered him. And he answered him mentioning 2 reasons. And listen to them. He said, number 1, he said, ذَاكَ شَهْرٌ يَغْفَلُ عَنْهُ النَّاسِ بَيْنَ رَجَبْ وَرَمَضَانِ. He said to him, this is a month in which people are heedless about. Even by the word of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said it is the month in which people are most heedless about. They neglect this month, they ignore this month. بين رجب ورمضان. It is between Rajab and Ramadan, which is the month of Sha'ban that we are in right now. This is the month in which people do not pay attention, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying they do not realize the importance of it. My sisters in Islam, the one who does not realize the importance of Sha'ban is labeled by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's word as a ghafil, as a heedless person. That's how Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam referred to the one who does not know its importance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran warned us about being heedless. In Surah Al-A'raf, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, وَلَا تَكُمْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. Don't you dare be among the heedless. The believer should be far away from heedlessness. Should always be awake, alive, alert, knowing where he is and where he'll end and where he'll go. What does it mean that the people are heedless about this month? What does it mean that they neglect this month? Meaning, when you walk in the streets, you will hardly find anyone fasting. You won't see people speaking about Sha'ban. No one will remind each other of Sha'ban. During the nights, no one has any intention to go home early, to sleep early, so that he can wake up for the last 10 minutes of the night to pray something for Allah Azza wa Jal in hope that he is not recorded among those who are heedless during this month. You won't find this. This is not popular among the people. It goes about like any other month. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast the month because people don't pay attention to it. And when you fast, it brings the attention of people. Like Usama ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu, he realized that he came to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and would say to him, I've seen you different in this month as opposed to the other months. Because fasting, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he's fasting, he's teaching us that fasting in the month makes you from those who are paying attention to the month. It makes you from those who are paying attention in this month and keeps you far away from those who are heedless and neglectful of this month. And here, my sisters in Islam, we are learning a great principle in Islam. Memorize this principle. It is highly recommended and most beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal when a person worships Allah during a time or a place in which people are heedless of Allah Azza wa Jal and they have neglected the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is a principle in Islam. When you worship Allah in places that neglect Allah, I'll give you examples. And you worship Allah in times in which the worship of Allah is neglected, this worship is valuable and Allah Azza wa Jal. And it is immensely rewarded for, and it is most beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal. And so because Sha'ban is a month that people neglect, it becomes highly recommended to worship Allah. During Ramadan, it's easy. Everyone's engaged in worship in Ramadan. Everyone's praying, mashallah, salat al-tarawih, night prayers. People that never prayed it in their life. Children are praying. People are fasting, even children are fasting. No problems, because everyone's doing this. But the most beloved deed to Allah is the deed that is done during a time of heedlessness and during places of heedlessness. And in order to understand this important principle, for example, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ مِنَ الرَّبِّ فِي جَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. The closest that a person could be to Allah is during the last third of the night. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith, فَإِنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ أَن تَكُونَ مِمَّنْ يَذْكُرُ اللَّهَ فِي تِلْكَ السَّاعَةِ فَكُنْ. If you're able to be from among those who remember Allah during that time, the last third of the night, then make sure you're from them. If you're able to do so, then make sure you're from them. Why is this time the closest a person is to Allah? Because this is a time in which people are heedless of. Who's awake at that time? Everyone's sleeping at that time. Worship is neglected at that time. The vast majority of the population on earth are heedless about the time before Salat al-Fajr, the last third of the night. So the one who worshipped Allah during this time, he was given the good news that you are now the closest to Allah Azza wa Jal from among all of mankind. Such a huge reward. Why? Because you are worshipping Allah during a time of heedlessness. This is a very important principle. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us that if you enter the marketplace, a souk, there is a dua to say. That dua is what? La ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lah, lahu al-mulk, wa lahu al-hamd, yuhyi wa yumeet, biyadihi al-khayr, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Whoever says these simple words that are huge in their meaning and huge in their weight, as he enters the marketplace, the malls, the shopping center, the grocery store, whatever it is, Allah Azza wa Jal would record for him alfa hasana, 1,000,000 good deeds. وَمَحَ عَنْهُ أَلْفَ سَيِّئَةٍ, and wipes away from him 1,000,000 bad deeds. وَبُنِيَ لَهُ بَيْتٌ فِي الْجَنَّةِ, and Allah will build for him a house in the paradise. Hadith is authentic. There is difference of opinion. A good majority of ulama have authenticated the hadith. Why? Why is there a huge reward for these simple words? Why? Because the places in which people go to shop, the marketplaces, the malls and the shopping centers, these are places that are heedless when it comes to dhikrullah Azza wa Jal. Who remembers Allah in the marketplace? In a marketplace, this is where people are purchasing their items. This is where people are getting their hands on what they've been waiting for. Let's say someone's been waiting for something for a few months, saving up for it. So he's overtaken by his desire and his love for these materialistic matters. And the majority of people forget dhikrullah Azza wa Jal. So if you, among the thousands that have neglected dhikrullah, remembered to say La ilaha illallah as you walked in, you earned a huge reward. Because we said the most beloved deeds to Allah Azza wa Jal are those deeds that are done in places and in times of heedlessness. SubhanAllah. Even in that dhikr of entering the marketplace, we said that it is La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahu al-mulk wa lahu al-hamd, yuhyi wa yumeet, biyadihi al-khayr, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Biyadihi al-khayr. Why is this biyadihi al-khayr in this dhikr when you enter the marketplace? If you focused on the meaning of biyadihi al-khayr and you pondered a few moments over these two words, you will realize its relevance as you enter the shopping centers. Biyadihi al-khayr, meaning that goodness is in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal. When the people go into the shops and in the marketplace, what's their purpose? Their purpose is, and literally they say, to purchase goods. They call them goods, yeah? To purchase goods. So as you enter and you say, biyadihi al-khayr, you're reminding yourself that the ultimate goodness is in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal. It is not owned by those who you're going to purchase it from. This is a temporary ownership. This is a temporary ownership. The marketplace, when he sells you a product, he only had temporary ownership of this product. He didn't own it all his life. Where was the product before he was born? Where was it when it was manufactured and owned by someone else and then sold to someone else and moved to someone else and so on? No one ever has permanent ownership over anything. Allah Azza wa Jal is the only one who has permanent ownership over everything that exists on this earth, even the grain of sand. So as you enter the marketplace and you say, biyadihi al-khayr, it puts a smile to your face to remember that the goodness is all in Allah Azza wa Jal's hand, and that I should not be fooled and deceived thinking that the goodness is in his hand or his hand or his hand. It's all in Allah Azza wa Jal's hand, And once quickly you come to this realization, you will be more into your dua when you're asking Allah Azza wa Jal to grant you with goodness. Because now you know He's the owner of all goodness. And He's the one who divides the goodness among His servants. You want goodness? You ask it from Allah Azza wa Jal. وَاسْأَلُ اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, as Allah Azza wa Jal says. So that's something in that dhikr. But the idea is this dhikr said as you walk in the marketplace earns you such a huge reward, because the marketplaces are places in which dhikrullah is neglected. Even the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say the most hated places on earth to Allah are the marketplaces. And the most beloved places to Allah are the masajid. Not as in the land is hated, but what happens in the marketplace is hated by Allah Azza wa Jal. What happens in marketplaces? Cheating, swearing, lying, deception, backbiting, gossip, men and women looking at each other, hanging out together. And this is all happening in marketplaces. As a result, it became the most hated places to Allah because of what happens in them of sin. Even the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say, إِنَّهَا مَعْرَكَةُ الشَّيْطَانِ وَبِهَا يَنْصِبُ رَايَتَهُ. It is the war zone of a shaitan. The marketplace is the war zone of a shaitan, and he sets up his flag in the war zone. Sets up his flag, meaning he has a permanent presence there. And all the temptations and desires and the haram and the sins that occur in the marketplaces, a shaitan drives this and pushes it and promotes it and encourages it. This is why it's not good to spend a lot of time in a marketplace. You go in there to purchase what you need and you get out. These are places of heedlessness. And if you walk in, don't forget to say, La ilaha illallah, the word of Tawheed. Because people in there might lose their deen altogether. The longer you spend in there, it is harmful for a person's iman, harmful for a person's relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. And so this is why the greatest word in our deen, which is La ilaha illallah, was legislated for this place. So that just before you walk in, you remember that your Lord is one. Be careful, do not disobey Him. Remain steadfast upon your worship and continue to obey Him subhanahu wa ta'ala as you enter. Quickly get your stuff and get out. That's the idea. That's the idea. Now, even that is the first reason for why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast this month. And he would encourage the fasting of this month. Because it is a month of extreme heedlessness, when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam does not want to be like the other people and heedless. So he would fast it, and him fasting it is teaching us that the greatest thing you and I could do to avoid heedlessness during this month is to fast. Fast at all if you can. If you cannot fast at all, then at least Monday and Thursday or every second day. If you cannot do so, then at least 3 days of this month. If you cannot, find something of the month and fast. But the entire month to go by, and not a single day being fasted when you were able to do so. I don't know. Allah Azza wa Jal knows the reality of such a person. Some people generally have an excuse. They're not able to fast. Especially a woman, perhaps pregnant or breastfeeding, or she is excused in certain days. Perhaps someone is sick with a chronic illness. Such people with their intention, they intend. Allah Azza wa Jal would reward them according to their intention. If they were sincere and wanted to fast, Allah Azza wa Jal is more generous than holding this servant to account on the Day of Judgment for only his actions. Allah Azza wa Jal also rewards for the intention. Now, second reason that is mentioned in this hadith for why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast Sha'ban. He said to Usama ibn Zayd in the same hadith, وَهُوَ شَهْرٌ تُرْفَعُ الْأَعْمَالُ فِيهِ إِلَىٰ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. He said, and this is a month in which the deeds are taken up to the Lord of the Lords. Sha'ban my sisters in Islam, is the month in which your deeds, the good and the bad, and everything you had done from last Sha'ban until this year, all of it rises to Allah Azza wa Jal during this month. When? Allah A'lam. Could be the beginning, the middle, right towards the end, we got no clue. And the deeds being raised to Allah Azza wa Jal are 3 times. Number 1, there is a daily rise of deeds to Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is at Salat al-Fajr and Salat al-Asr. Almost every 12 hours, the deeds that you do rise to Allah Azza wa Jal. The angels take them. The angels, they come, they attend Salat al-Asr with the believers, and afterwards they take the deeds of the believers and they go up to Allah. The deeds of all of mankind, and they go up to Allah Azza wa Jal. And they are replaced by another group of angels that come down and stay with us from Asr until Fajr. And at Fajr time, they will collect the deeds and they go up to Allah Azza wa Jal. Every 12 hours, deeds are being raised to Allah Azza wa Jal. Of course, Allah Azza wa Jal knows your deeds. He doesn't need angels to come up with the deeds and so on. But this is so it can serve as a witness against the person on the Day of Judgment. That here, these are your deeds. They will always take. That's the book. اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't need to write our deeds in a book and assign angels to do the task, one on the left and one on the right, and he records your hasanat and records your bad. And Allah doesn't need all this. So what's all of this for? Why is the system in place? For you, for you. So that on the Day of Judgment, we all give it your book. Allah doesn't read your book. Allah knows what's in it. So that you can become the greatest witness against yourself. كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك شهيدا. Subhanallah. Allah, you think of this matter and you reflect and you say, right now, if your record of deeds was given to you, would you be happy with it? I don't think any sane, sound-minded believer would say, I'm ready to accept what's in it and let's go to Allah Azza wa Jal. I'm saying this so that you can always find an urgent need to refresh your tawbah and seek your forgiveness with Allah Azza wa Jal and continue to seek Allah Azza wa Jal's help upon His worship. So that's the first type of raising. Everyday deeds are going up. There's another type of deeds rising, and that is once a week. Twice a week. That is Monday and Thursday. That's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast Monday and Thursday. Because the deeds would rise to Allah, and He loves that His deeds are presented to Allah while He's fasting. Gives a better chance of acceptance. And this is why now we're speaking about this month, which brings us to the third type of rising, and that's once a year. And this is the greatest. All your deeds from last Sha'ban, whatever day it was that the deeds rose to Allah, from that day until whatever Allah Azza wa Jal decides of the days in this month, every deed that you did is going to rise to Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Anyone who does an ant's weight of good will see it, and an ant's weight of bad will see it. And we avoid translating dharra as atom. It's an incorrect translation. Wrong. Dharra does not mean atom. Dharra is 2 things. Either the speck of dust that is seen when light shines in the window and you see these little specks of dust floating around. That in the Arabic language is a dharra, or the ant. The Arabs used to refer to the ant as a dharra. And we're not allowed to interpret the Quran to other than what the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the companions interpreted. So we say an ant's weight. So all of that, no matter how insignificant you saw the deed, it is recorded and registered in this book. So my sisters in Islam, 360 or so days of deeds are going to go up to Allah Azza wa Jal during this month. How many of these days did you fast? 360 or so nights as well when the deeds are going to go up to Allah. How many of these nights were you up praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How many of these days did you spend in sincere, honest istighfar and dua to Allah Azza wa Jal? 360 or so days are going up to Allah Azza wa Jal. From these days, how many of them did you pray Salat al-Fajr on time? How much Quran did you read during these days? Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَكُلُّ صَغِيرٍ وَكَبِيرٍ مُسْتَطَرٍ. Everything huge that you did and everything small that you did, mustatar, it's written in lines. Mustatar comes from the word satar, and satar means a line. Actually, literally written down. 360 or so days and nights of what the angels have been recording for you or against you. Whether you're aware of the deed or not, will all be going up to Allah Azza wa Jal. Every word, every glance, every step, every backbiting, every fitna that you fell into, every haram, every good deed, everything, all of it will be going up to Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah only knows which day or night of Sha'ban it will go up. Your last Ramadan will be going up as well. Your last efforts in Laylat al-Qadr they also rise to Allah Azza wa Jal during these days. And this is why I tell you, this month is an important month and a very crucial month. The question is, will Allah Azza wa Jal accept your good deeds that go up or not? Will you earn the paradise because of these deeds that you have done from last Sha'ban now? Is there something there that might earn you the pleasure of Allah and the paradise and secure it for you forever? We don't know. Or will it be the opposite? We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to save us and protect us. I tell you, this is the most intense event of the year. And people continue to remain heedless about this month. And that's why at the end of that hadith, the big hadith of Usama that we were mentioning, in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, فَأُحِبُّ أَنْ يُرْفَعَ عَمَلِي وَأَنَا صَائِمٌ. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said the deeds rise up to Allah during this month. And he said, and I love for my deeds to rise to Allah while I'm fasting. But because I don't know which day they go up, I'll fast in time. Yani the deeds going up to Allah is going to be a moment during the month of Sha'ban. But the believer who is concerned for his relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't sit and guess what day it's, I'll just fast this and hope it's that day. We move on. The true believer that is concerned for his relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal would be like in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say, I won't take the risk, I'll fast the whole thing. I know it's a moment. The deeds going up to Allah, I know it's a moment. But I'd rather fast the whole thing so that I am rested and at peace that my deeds surely went up during this time and I was fasting. And deeds going up to Allah while you are fasting has a better chance of it being accepted. Why? Because when a person is fasting, his desire is suppressed. It's sealed, it's shut, it's closed. Right? When someone fasts, he doesn't think of anything halal. A person that is fasting is hungry, the maximum he's thinking about is desiring something halal, of food and water. That's alright, think of that. He's not tempted by anything halal. A person that is fasting, wallahi, if you locked him in a room and there was food in that room and he knew there's no camera and no one's seeing him, by Allah, he will not eat. Why? No one's worried. Because he knows Allah is seeing. That attitude, Ramadan, this is the whole lesson that he's teaching us. That if you are able to avoid what's halal, because you knew at that moment it's haram, and you avoided it because you knew Allah seeing you and no one was seeing you, that's the attitude it's supposed to develop and complete and continue until after Ramadan. The idea here is that when a person is fasting, he is most fearful of Allah Azza wa Jal. He's the most pious at that moment. He's aware of Allah Azza wa Jal. He's very weak. He's fragile. He's tired. He's in a state of desperation. He's weak. Allah Azza wa Jal sees that. Such a person, Allah Azza wa Jal bestows His mercy upon him, accepts his record, forgives his shortcomings, overlooks those, and a person succeeds. That's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam found. And that's him. And he was already guaranteed complete forgiveness of his sins. لِيَغْفِرَ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. He was guaranteed everything. And he's the best of creation. But he sets an example for his ummah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's teaching us that even if I was the best of creation, I'm still in need of Allah Azza wa Jal. Not that he's not exempt from the worship of Allah and from voluntary deeds. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if he put his fasting together, he fasted more than 6 months more than 6 months. If you put it all together. And if he put all his prayers together, he would be praying a minimum of 40 rak'at a day, including the sunnah, duha, and the night prayers, close to 40 rak'at a day. That's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And there was hardly anything stored in his house of wealth and gold, except that it was given fi sabilillah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam once was praying Salat al-Asr, and he finished, and he immediately got up, and he got on top of, walked in between the lines, in between the people. He was in a rush. Our companions realized this is not normal. He doesn't do this often. Usually he sits after the prayer. He entered his house, and he came out with something, he gave it away, and then the companions asked him. He said to them, I had forgotten a piece of gold in my house, so I rushed to remove it and to give it away as a sadaqah. He was bothered about this matter in another worship he was doing, which is as-salah. And that was the reason for why he rushed, because he had forgotten. This is setting an example. This is why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was an example. Of course, we're not going to be able to do what he did, but at least you can always look at that example and try to emulate it and copy it. For that's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast the entire month, because fasting gives you a better chance for your deeds to be accepted as they rise into Allah Azza wa Jal. And fasting also is a tawbah. Fasting is a tawbah. And when your deeds are being raised to Allah Azza wa Jal, you're in a state of tawbah. How's it a tawbah? You see, when Allah Azza wa Jal created Adam alayhi salam, and He put him in the paradise to roam around and to eat from whatever he wants except for a tree, he ate from the tree, which was a sin. وَعَصَى آدَمُ رَبَّهُ, Allah says. Adam alayhi salam disobeyed his Lord. Because he ate from that tree, Allah Azza wa Jal had decreed that he will be removed from the paradise and put on earth. So he landed and he came on earth. And Allah Azza wa Jal gave us a month of Ramadan to fast, tawbah. Then the sin was got to do something with eating. The sin had something to do with eating. He ate something that was forbidden, and that removed us and brought us down here. And you know, a part of the condition of a tawbah, to give up what you fell in. So you give up the food that was an issue and the problem for why we ended up on earth. So we fast. Fasting is a tawbah. It's a tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a person is fasting, he's in a state of tawbah, his deeds are going up. There is more of a chance for it to be accepted. Because he's doing what Allah has wanted him to do. You make a tawbah and istighfar, and Allah Azza wa Jal promised that He wipes away the sins with a tawbah. No matter how much the sins were and how huge they were. Allah, many people, they underestimate the tawbah, they underestimate the power of one astaghfirullah. One. Just one astaghfirullah said from an honest, sincere heart is enough to wipe away the greatest of the sins, and that is a shirk. One only is enough. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He spoke about the shirk of the Christians, at the end He said, أَفَلَا يَتُوبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَيَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. Why don't they rush to repent to Allah and seek His forgiveness? As though Allah Azza wa Jalla is offering this is a solution for the major sin of a shirk. One astaghfir. One. That is one is enough to wipe away an entire record of bad deeds and shortcomings and rebellion and transgression and envy and backbiting and jealousy and all the other stuff that human beings fall into. One astaghfirullah. Now, for tawbah, fasting is a tawbah. Fasting, a person is in a state of istighfar. He's in a state of tawbah, returning to Allah Azza wa Jalla. What's a tawbah? What is a tawbah? Literally, a tawbah means raja'a. Taba means raja'a. You know? Tawbah means to come back. The idea is that a person has went so far away from Allah that a tawbah brings him back. Brings him back to where he's supposed to be with Allah Azza wa Jalla. And fasting, no doubt, puts you back on a path in which Allah Azza wa Jalla wants the servants to live. Now, fasting as well, it prepares us for the meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It prepares us for the meeting with Allah. And this is why Musa alayhi salam, he was commanded by Allah to fast 30 nights and 30 days before Allah spoke to him. You know, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً. Allah Azza wa Jalla had promised Musa alayhi salam to give him a Tawrah, the revelation, a Tawrah, the book of Bani Israel. But before Allah gave it to him, and before Allah spoke to him, Allah Azza wa Jalla gave him appointment at the mountain of Al-Tur. And He commanded him to fast 30 nights. وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً. He had to fast the nights and most definitely the days, because that's where fasting is, during the day. So he fasted 30 nights and days in a row. Allah Azza wa Jalla would nourish him and protect him and kept him alive. On the 30th day, Musa alayhi salam wanted to change the breath of his mouth with a siwak, with a toothstick, a siwak. So he did so. And then the angel came and said to him to continue another 10 days and 10 nights, because he shouldn't have changed his breath with a siwak. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the hadith, لَخَلُوفُ فَمِ الصَّائِمِ أَطْيَبُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ رِيحِ الْمِسْكِ. The breath of the fasting person is more beloved to Allah than the smell of musk. That's just his breath. Imagine in the entire believer himself, how much more is he beloved to Allah Azza wa Jalla. So then Allah said in the Quran, وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ. We extended those 30 days, another 10, and it became 40. فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ رَبِّهِ 40 لَيْلَةً. We'll find the story of this ayah in the tafsir. Then he met Allah and Allah spoke to him. The idea is, in order to meet Allah, the preparation was fasting. Musa was fasting, and that prepared him for the meeting with Allah. Allah would speak to him and gave him the book, the Torah. That's what fasting does. It prepares you for the meeting with Allah Azza wa Jalla. And notice, the day of judgment, on what day does it happen? Yeah, the days of the week. The day of judgment is established on what day? Anyone know? Friday. Friday. The day before it is the day of Thursday. Is the day of Thursday a recommended day to fast? That's the relationship. Fasting because it prepares you for the meeting with Allah, which happens on a Friday. Monday is a recommended day to fast as well, right? Monday is the day in which the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was born. The birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a minor sign of the hour. A minor sign of the hour. And the hour is meeting with Allah. So we fast on Monday. Because a minor sign happened on this day. And the minor signs remind us of the meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal, so we fast on Monday. The first 10 days of the Hijjah. And you know the significance of the first 10 days. These are the days of Hajj. These are the actual days in which there is a meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal. The Hujjaj, and in the Arafah, Mina, Muzdalifah, Tawaf around the Kaaba, all of this, Allah. And we fast these days because they prepare us for the meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal. And Ramadan, we fast the entire Ramadan. Because I told you, Ramadan is the 9th month of the year. And towards the end of the year, it resembles a person almost dying now and being resurrected to stand before Allah Azza wa Jal. So Ramadan also is fasting before the meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, so this is why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast Sha'ban, to be in a state of tawbah, so that there is a chance for an acceptance of his deeds, and because it prepares a person for the meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, and finally, the third reason for why he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast Sha'ban is in preparation for Ramadan. In preparation for Ramadan. Sha'ban is like the sunnah before the Fard. You know, every sunnah, every Fard prayer has a sunnah either before or after. Except what? Except Asr. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jalla in Surah Al-Baqarah, He said, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, safeguard your prayers, especially the Asr. Why did He specify Asr as opposed to all the others? Because that's the only one that doesn't have a sunnah before and after. So you better do it right, because there's nothing that will make up for it. All the other prayers have a sunnah before and after. And the sunnah before and after works towards rectifying your obligation. As the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says on the day of judgment, when the servant presents and his obligatory prayers are incomplete, they are missing, he says to the angels, and he knows better, look into his record, does he have any voluntary prayers? Say yes. So his voluntary prayers are added onto his obligatory prayers and they are complete, and he enters the paradise. Al-Asr doesn't have something before or after of al-rawatib. Otherwise, other than the consistent recommended prayers, there is 4 rak'at before it. As the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, رَحْمَ اللَّهُ بِأَنْ صَلَّى قَبْلَ الْعَصْرِ أَرْبَعًا. May Allah have mercy upon a person who prayed 4 rak'at before Asr. So the idea is, Sha'ban is the sunnah before the Fard. And the sunnah, what's the point of a sunnah? Prepares you for the Fard. It prepares you. You know, there is 100% difference between a person who quickly got up, Allahu Akbar, prayed his Fard and finished, and walked away. Between that person and someone else who made wudu, prayed the sunnah, sat down, made some dua, read some Quran, some dhikr, then he got up and prayed the obligatory prayer. That person will achieve much more khushu' than the one who immediately got into his Fard and finished it. No doubt. And think of a fan. A fan, when it's on and you switch it off, it takes time for it to settle, to stop. It takes time. And so the one who wants to quickly rush into his obligation, Allahu Akbar, the world is like a fan in his mind. It switched off as soon as he began, but it's still turning around. So he's thinking, what food am I going to cook? The children coming, going, who I need to call, who I need to see. By the end of the salat, he's planned his whole day in his salat. Khushu'. He missed out on the khushu'. Different to a person who prayed the sunnah. He prayed the sunnah, this is the time in which the fan is settling. All the affairs in his mind are coming down, they're decreasing. By the end of the salat, he's almost finished. He comes to the fard and he is ready. He comes to his fard and his heart is at peace. That's the purpose of the sunnah. Therefore, Sha'ban before Ramadan is like the sunnah before the fard. Sunnah. So you fast a couple of days in preparation for this month. Look at the state of people that avoid Sha'ban completely and are extremely heedless about it and do not fast a day. The first day of Ramadan comes, headache. He's focused on his headache, tired, sleeping, and his first day is gone. And he doesn't, it's the first day, doesn't matter, we still have another 29 days. This is the attitude that happens with a person that neglected the importance of Sha'ban. If you fasted a couple of days of Sha'ban and you've neglected fasting for the entire year, all that tiredness and that fatigue and those headaches that come with fasting and whatever it is that people suffer from at the beginning of Ramadan, you deal with all that now. In the voluntary, you deal with it now. So that when Ramadan begins, you're ready. You're taking advantage of the first minute. While others are vomiting and dealing with their headaches and so on. And from the beginning, you're already ready for this. You prepared, fasted a few days, took advantage of Sha'ban. That's the importance. Now, that's the importance. This is why the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would recommend, my sisters in Islam, a deen is full of mercy. And there is extreme compassion in it. And there is extreme gentleness in it. And there is wisdom in everything that Allah legislated. All we need to do is understand. And if we don't understand, just implement. You won't go wrong. The truth is what Allah revealed and what He legislated. Whether you understood it or not, there is immense truth in it and immense goodness for a person in his health, in his state with Allah It's good for him in this life, in his grave, in the afterlife. There's nothing wrong and there's nothing harmful in it. So that's the idea. That's the idea. And also, in Sha'ban, this is the month in which the ulama, rahimahumullah, would refer to it as Shahr al-Qur'an. It's the month of reading the Quran. Habib ibn Thabit, radiyallahu anhu, he said, هذا شهر القرآن. Sha'ban is the month of the Quran. وعمر ibn Qais, from among the Salaf, he used to have a store. He used to have a business operating. And as soon as Sha'ban began, not Ramadan, as soon as Sha'ban began, أغلق حوانيته, he closed his business. وتفرغ لقراءة القرآن, and he freed himself to read the Quran. Even the people of the past understood the importance of the month, and they're closing up way before Ramadan. One of the main deeds of Ramadan is the fasting, the Quran, with Taraweeh, the night prayer. If these are the main deeds in Ramadan, then the month before, which is Sha'ban, these are the things that you're supposed to be doing. And so this is why Sha'ban is a month in which the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would fast. A month that is referred to as the month of the Quran. Salaf rahimahumullah used to pray its nights. You do 3 things because these are the 3 things that are apparent and obvious in the month. So you train for them. Do not deprive yourself of this goodness. Do not deprive yourself of this goodness. And I am amazed with people that bring excuses to them. You find people that are 30, 35, 40, 50, doesn't know how to read the Quran. No effort has been done to read the Quran. And he says, I don't have time. I'm busy. The same person has 2 hours to spend of the day on social media. Half an hour on WhatsApp. 40 minutes on Facebook. 30 minutes on Instagram. We thought you had no time. Where did you get these moments and hours of the day to spend on that? And on this you had no time? Allah Azza wa Jalla said, فَلَمَّا آتَاهُم مِّن فَضْلِهِ بَخِلُوا بِهِ وَتَوَلَّوْا وَهُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ. Be careful not to be stingy with your time when it comes to your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jalla. The one who deserves all your time is Allah Azza wa Jalla. We're not saying give all your time in worship. No one can do this. It's difficult. But at least something. A person who spent just 20 minutes a day for 1 year, he becomes a master in reading the Quran. He will master it. That's half an hour. Not every day of the week. Half an hour, 5 days a week. I give you something realistic. I give you the actual realistic plan. Half an hour for 5 days for 6 months is more than enough to master the art of reading the Quran with tajweed and memorizing something as well. That's nothing. But unfortunately, Shaitan gets the better of the people, and they continue to use the excuse of no time. No time and no time. There is time, but it's a matter of what you have prioritized. There is time. It's a matter of what you have prioritized. You know, priority. And subhanAllah, on this night, I remember something. Once there was, and it's relevant, there was a brother, and his daughter, mashallah, I think she had reached the age of puberty. She was in high school, but she hadn't worn the hijab. We were with the brother and we asked him. I asked him specifically, and we noticed that your daughter does not wear the hijab. We asked Allah Azza wa Jalla to make things easy for her. Would you like that we speak to her about this matter? You know, because the believers encourage one another upon goodness and piety. He said, actually, I've left it until she's convinced. I said, gee, that's good. So you've left it until she is convinced. When she's convinced about wearing it, she'll wear it. I said, I got a question for you. What if your daughter tomorrow said, I don't want to go to school tomorrow until I'm convinced? Would you accept that from her? He says, no. Then no doubt I will force her to go to school. Wallahi, he said, I'll force her to go to school. Why? Why? Why is this different today? He said that. He said to me, they're both different. They're different. This is school, this is her life, and this is coming. I said, yes, wallahi, they are different. Going to school and so on, and we swore the knife. He said, well, of course it's different in your relationship with Allah. But the problem is you haven't understood which of the two is more important. You don't know which one is more priority. So the idea is to give you that, to come and share with you here as well. We have time. We all have time. Each and every single one of us has 24 hours like the one sitting next to her. When you say, I don't have time for my Quran or for my Salat or for my worship, it's not that you don't have time. The reality, the truth, the honesty is, I have preferred this over this. The quicker you realize, the quicker you are honest to yourself, and you should stop lying to yourself, the quicker you are honest with yourself, the quicker you get to the solution. And the more you lie to yourself, you will continue carrying down your own excuses and you will not realize. Now, this is what it means for a person to hold himself to account, to sit with himself, to be honest with himself. No one is going to judge you. No one cares about them. You shouldn't care about anyone's judgment anyway. What are people going to do? You sit with yourself and really talk to yourself. And that's why I really don't have time for the Quran. If you're struggling to answer yourself, Monitor yourself over the day. First hour, Bismillah. What did I do in the first hour after Salat al-Fajr? What did I do in the second hour? In the third hour? What did I do? What did I do? Continue. Write. If someone is concerned, write down the entire path, the entire plan for a whole week. Then sit down. You by yourself, with no one with you. You don't need anyone's opinion, you don't need anyone's judgment. And then at the end of the day, if you are sincere with Allah Azza wa Jalla, you're going to see where the problem is. You will be honest to yourself, and at that moment you will change and you will know that, look, it was me, I'm the one that didn't prioritize the Quran and the worship, was-salat, wal-ibadat, and so on, and I had plenty of time. The quicker you do that, the better for yourself, Allah, the better for yourself and your relationship with Allah Azza wa Jalla. Now, Allahu A'lam, I think we will conclude with that. This is something I wanted to share with you about this month of Sha'ban. Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that He grant us the energy and the ability that we increase our righteous deeds during this month. For indeed, we are all in need of righteous deeds. I've mentioned to you their importance. Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to accept from us our deeds and to bless them for us, and to grant us His pleasure through our good deeds. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to admit us into the paradise. مع النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to allow us to witness Ramadan and to bless our actions in Ramadan. For reaching Ramadan alone is not a virtue. Even the kuffar will reach Ramadan. Even the hypocrite reaches Ramadan. I'll even finish 30 days of it. There's no virtue in reaching Ramadan. There's no virtue alone in reaching Ramadan. The virtue is in making the most of Ramadan. So this is why when we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla and say, Allah, allow us to reach Ramadan and witness Ramadan, and we say, and oh Allah, bless our actions in Ramadan and allow us to make the most of Ramadan. We ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins, our shortcomings, and to accept from us all, to accept this gathering. We ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us sincerity in all our actions and all our words. إنه ولي ذلك والقادر عليه. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وجزاكم الله خيرا. If there are any questions related to the lesson or otherwise, we'll take them now, inshallah ta'ala. So that if you have a question, feel free to ask, so that others can benefit as well. Now, Bismillah. Alaykum as-salam.
The one thing I feel a bit guilty about fasting, since last Ramadan, middle of last Ramadan, I've got a digestion problem with my stomach acid and this kind of very bad bloating. Still I'm under treatment, alhamdulillah. But the doctor couldn't find, I've got a small hernia on top of my stomach. And anything I want to eat, like I can't continue for more than 3 days. Like if I have porridge for my breakfast, I can continue for more than 3 days. And I've got lots of acid. Even the anti-acid doesn't help me. My daughter, alhamdulillah, she's a nutritionist. She's helping me lots, but still, I feel so bad about it. I'm so scared that I can't.
Khalas, I understood. I will answer you, inshallah. I will give you some advice. First and foremost, we need to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated this deen. And Allah Azza wa Jalla referred to this deen saying, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla intends ease for you, and He does not intend any hardship. And imagine this, the fact that Allah said, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ, Allah wants ease for you, would have been enough for us to understand that the religion is easy. But then He went a step further to also negate the opposite of ease and said, وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ, and He does not want any hardship for you whatsoever. For the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla is easy, and it caters for every single person, no matter what situation he's in. If a person is healthy and able to stand and pray, he must stand and pray. If he's not able to stand and pray, sit down and pray. If he cannot sit down, lie down and pray. If he cannot even lie on his side facing the Qibla, then pray with your eyes. Just the movement of the eyes with an intention of salah, then it should be enough for you. Yani this is al-fiqh. It's very simple. It caters for each and every single one of us in this situation. When it comes to fasting, a person that is healthy and able to fast, he must fast. He must fast all its days. If a person is unable to fast, we're going to look at his sickness. We're going to say sickness is of two types. There is a temporary illness, there is a permanent illness. Let's begin with the permanent illness. Someone has a chronic illness, and there is no cure for it, and his illness is in such a manner that it prevents him from fasting. And this is the doctor's recommendation and advice to him. They're the ones that recommend that your fasting cannot be prolonged more than 3 days, as the sister said, or perhaps he says you should be eating such and such, and you're not allowed to go for more than 6 hours without eating, and you cannot do 12 hours. This is impossible. You'll harm your health in this manner. This is the word of the doctor. For a person with permanent illness, of course, we accept it. Islam works hand in hand with that kind of advice from the professional. So as a result, for such a person, Allah Azza wa Jal would legislate that upon him he shall pay and feed a poor person for every day he breaks his fast. Simple, finished. So an old man, an old woman that cannot bear fasting, someone who is permanently ill and he cannot fast due to his illness, Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal has accepted from him and he has granted him the reward of a full Ramadan as though he fasted it, under one condition, that he feeds a poor person for every day of this month. If he's extremely poor and in a state of poverty, he doesn't even have a dollar to his name and he's barely struggling and surviving, nothing is required from him. Allah Azza wa Jal accepts from him. Fadeen Sana, it's easy. Alhamdulillah. If a person is suffering from a temporary illness, so that means there is cure for him in the future. Perhaps a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 months. He's recovering, he's in a state of recovery. And the advice that has arrived to him from the professionals and the experts is do not fast during this time. You must avoid fasting for at least the next 6-7 weeks. So therefore, for this temporarily sick, ill person, we'll say, follow that advice. Do not fast during Ramadan. You have a concession. Leave it. After Ramadan, make up for those days. Because if your illness is temporary, you will get better afterwards. You'll be in a state and a position where you're able to fast. So make up for those days then, and you don't have to feed anyone for those days that you break while Ramadan is moving along. This is it. Very simple. Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. Situation is taken care of by the Sharia, alhamdulillah. Now, next question.
You know how the Shahan that we fast if we work in one day since the Shahan fasting is Sunnah, can we fast on the weekend or Thursday?
Now we said that it is recommended first and foremost as a high degree and a high aim to fast the entire month of Sha'ban. That is what is recommended. You cannot do that. We said you choose whatever days you can. The second best option would be 1 day on, 1 day off, because this was the fasting of the old. If you cannot do that, third best option would be Monday and Thursday, as the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would do. You cannot do that, then at least 3 days of this month, preferably 13, 14, 15. If you cannot do that, then any 3 days of the month. If you wanted to do the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, for example, then there is no issue in doing so as well. No problems. Now, any other question? Bismillah.
So if you miss prayers, during your teenage years, and the bahasha that the qada, like early prayers that you miss when you're a teenager, is it better to do, for example, when you pray to the Fajr, to do early to the Fajr before, or is Sunnah first? What's the best way?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-ulama rahimahumullah differed concerning this matter. For a person who abandoned and neglected his prayers for a very long time, and then eventually Allah Azza wa Jal gave him life in his heart. He woke up, he made the tawbah, he turned to Allah, he regretted his past of abandoning and neglecting the prayers, and now he asks, what do I do? For 6 years I did not pray. For 10 years I did not pray. Allah, some people for 20, 25 years I did not pray. What do I do? The vast majority said that he must pray. He must pray. Because this is a debt of Allah Azza wa Jal. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, دَيْنُ اللَّهِ أَحَقُّ أَنْ يُقْضَى. The debt of Allah Azza wa Jal has more of a priority for it to be fulfilled. So as a result, we say to this person, focus on your tawbah first and foremost. First and foremost, focus on your tawbah. Regret what had happened in the past. Seek Allah Azza wa Jal's forgiveness. And after your tawbah, start making up for those prayers. Estimate. You're not going to know the exact number of how many prayers you missed. So the second best option is to estimate. I missed whatever number of years of salat. So we're going to say, from now on, this is how you'll do it. You pray salat al-fajr. Then you get up after it and you pray. You pray. You're fulfilling the debt of salat al-fajrs before. You pray al-dhuhr and you pray afterwards. 4 rak'at. You pray salat al-asr. You do not pray after salat al-asr because it's forbidden. You pray before that. Salat al-maghrib, and after it pray some rak'at. Salat al-isha, and pray some rak'at afterwards. For the one who's able to do that, we give him this advice. And we teach him the seriousness of the prayer, and that this is a right of Allah Azza wa Jal, and it is most deserving of being fulfilled. So we say do that. And increase your nawafil and your istighfar and your tawbah. Then it just depends on who I'm speaking to. I shared this as a first opinion, as a first example. And then there is a minority of ulama, they say that a person who neglected and ignored the prayers purposely, nothing can make up for it. Khalas, it's gone. So that when he makes a tawbah, and he doesn't have to make up for the prayers of the past. Rather, for him the advice is, increase your voluntary prayers, so that they hopefully can make up for something if there was accountability for those past. And that's the risky opinion. Nonetheless, if it was for me and a single person in front of me asking, I would assess the situation. If such a person seems to be weak, he's barely struggling on his new, fresh tawbah, it will not burden him with the first opinion, because perhaps that will turn him away altogether. So perhaps we'll say to him, Alhamdulillah, we'll give him congratulating news for his tawbah. We'll congratulate him for his tawbah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would congratulate the Sahaba for their tawbah. Like Ka'b ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, when the ayat came down and Allah had accepted his tawbah, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to him, Abshir ya Ka'b, بخير يوم مر عليك منذ ولدتك أمك. He said to him, congratulations Ka'b, today is the best day of your life since your mother gave birth to you. Imagine, the day of Tawbah is better than the day you graduated. It's better than the day you got married. It is better than the day you had your first child. All of these are joyful occasions for a person. But the day a person made a Tawbah is the best day in his life. So I will focus on that. And we'll congratulate him for this event, strengthen him, we'll be around him, support, easy. Once he's into it and he's got the hang of it, we'll teach him the other opinion that exists, and that it's a majority opinion, and that there is a risk. There is a risk if you follow this minority opinion of not making up for the prayers. And then khalas, it's between him and Allah Azza wa Jal. But that's the idea. We cannot give like a general answer. This is an explained answer I gave, and you can use it whichever way you feel is best, with the person. But we are always inclined to give the majority opinion, and that is make up for those prayers now. And you're not wasting any time. This is something that you're supposed to do. There's goodness in this. Wallahu a'lam. No. Any questions?
I just want to ask if you can give advice to everyone, not just our younger generation, but mainly our younger generation, with what they're facing now of trials, like the LGBTQ. I know you've done a lot of this, but it's like an opportunity now. And those that are worshipping Allah, but on the edge, ala harf. So, what advice do we give them to bring them back, to our deen in a nice way?
First and foremost, Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran about Lut alayhi salam and his people, when they began to come out with their filth, when they came out with their filth and they walked the streets to the point they got to the house of Lut alayhi salam, knocking the door, asking him for his guests, because he had guests. 3 angels had come to the city. And his wife, who betrayed him, went and leaked out this news to the entire nation of Lut that the guests are in the house. So they came out. Now they've become, they're expressing their rebellion, their transgression, their vulgarity, their shamelessness. They're expressing it. They came to his house. Allah says, وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدُوهُ عَنْ ضَيْفِهِ. Lut alayhi salam says, وَقَالَ هَذَا يَوْمٌ عَصِيبٌ. He said, indeed, today is a tough, hard, difficult, terrible day. So number one, a prophet acknowledged that at a time when people came out with this filth, this practice today, he acknowledged it is a tough, difficult day. So that's number one. It is fine to accept and embrace in your heart that these are tough days that are with us. These are extremely terrible days that are ahead of us. This is a prophet that said this. So of course, we're going to say the same words. هَذَا يَوْمٌ عَصِيبٌ. And subhanAllah, the more I read of the story of Lut alayhi salam in the Quran, the more I find its extreme relevance with us today. These people of Qawm Lut went to his house, to his door, knocked the door. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَضَاقَ بِهِمْ ذَرْعًا. He tried to close the door as they were outside, and he was worried. He became scared to the point where the angel said, لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّا رُسُلُ رَبِّكَ لَن يَصِلُوا إِلَيْكَ. Do not be afraid. We are the messengers of Allah. They will not reach you. That's a prophet. He needed reassurance by angels that were with him, who were his guests. And I read this part of the story. Well, subhanAllah, wallah, I do not, how am I going to say it? I do not believe, or I actually believe these days are very close, in where I wouldn't be surprised if this community began to come and knock on your doors, one by one. This is what they did. They knocked on the door of Lut. Don't be surprised if they knock on your door one day to say that we are here to educate you about LGBT rights and to teach you and your children about these matters. I believe he needs to be smart in terms of what he's going to do. Maybe some people would react violently, but that's not the right thing to do, because these people are provoking us. They want that. The more people hit them, the more people are violent towards them, the more rights they earn. They love that. This is what brought them to the spotlight anyway, because they were marginalized and victimized. So they want more of this. So do not be surprised if they put themselves in front of you. Instead, Lut alayhi salam stayed behind the door, and he closed the door, and he did not come out to them. The punishment of Allah Azza wa Jalla would deal with these people. But the idea is, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, as the angels would say to Lut, لَن يَصِلُوا إِلَيْكَ. They will not reach you. Why? So long as a believer upholds and commits to his deen, then they will not reach you. I'll use the same words to say in our time as well. لَن يَصِلُوا إِلَيْكَ. They will not reach you. How did they not reach Lut alayhi salam? Because he was committed upon what Allah Azza wa Jalla had revealed to him. In Surah Al-Qamar, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, كَذَّبَتْ قَوْمُ لُوطٍ بِالنُّذُرِ. The people of Lut, they rejected the warnings. إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ حَاصِبًا إِلَّا آلَ لُوطٍ. We sent upon them stones, except the family of Lut, meaning him and his daughters. Allah said, نَجَّيْنَاهُمْ بِسَحَرٍ. we rescued and we saved them at the time of Sahar, which is suhoor time before Fajr. Allah said, نِعْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا, as a blessing from us. What's the blessing? The blessing is that Allah saved Lut and his daughters, and the blessing of Allah is that He destroyed the rebellious and the transgressive nation. Allah then said, كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي مَنْ شَكَرَ. And in the same manner we saved Lut, we will also save those who show gratitude to us. That's the power. The one who wants to be saved. See, look, the one who wants to be saved needs to practice a shukr. That's what Allah Azza wa Jalla, He did not limit the solution and saving Lut to Lut only. Allah said He saved him at Sahar time before Fajr, because this is a time in which Allah's mercy descends, and it encompasses only the believer. And it is at the same time where Allah punishment comes down and takes the disbelievers as they're sleeping in a heedless state. And then Allah opened the door and He says, not only Lut we saved, but every single person who comes after Lut and practices a shukr will also save him. And a shukr above the list is to embrace the tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's the ultimate form of shukr. To say La ilaha illallah, and then to follow that up with action and commit to its principles. This is a shukr. So the idea is whoever holds on to his deen, Allah would save him. My sisters in Islam, the one believing house is due to Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's why in the story of Lut, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, فَمَا وَجَدْنَا فِيهَا غَيْرَ بَيْتٍ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. From among the entire tribe of thousands, we only found one believing family. But it was too valuable and precious with Allah Azza wa Jalla that He did not send the punishment yet until that family was safe out. Then He destroyed the rest. The believer is honored in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So the idea here is for you to uphold your deen, practice your deen, and most definitely not to be scared of these people and that community, and to speak in an educated manner about them and their sin and what they call it. You know, they call in June, they call it what? Pride Month. Pride Month.
Now we're coming on to World Pride.
No, Pride. It's not Pride Month. The actual reality of it is Rebellion Month. And this is by their own actions. Because you know, why was June Pride Month to begin with? It was Pride Month because of an event that happened a few years after World War II, known as Stonewall Riots. Stonewall Riots is a building, it's called Stonewall Inn. It's on Christopher Street in New York, Lower Manhattan. It was a gay club. It was owned by certain people, and the patrons of these sexually deviated people would attend. They would attend. And the mafia would pay the police to keep them away from this place so that they don't do their regular checks. Because homosexuality, up until that time, was a crime, punishable by law. So the mafia would pay the police to turn a blind eye and not to come here. Otherwise, people are arrested and fined and jail time. Until one day, it was, I think, 26th of June, some couple of days after World War II, the mafia did not pay the police. So the police rocked up that week and they entered the club and they began to do their checks in there. Anyone who was cross-dressed was a male and crossed like a female, they would check in the public toilets, the private toilets of the bar. And yeah, he was practicing this act or doing these matters that are deviated, they would arrest him. So a group of people came down and began to protest, and the protest started growing larger and larger, and over 3 to 6 days there were thousands of people protesting. And those that were in the club at that time managed to push the police away and run out, lock the doors, and light Stonewall Inn on fire, almost burning the police. And there was a taxi driver that had come down Christopher Street that day, and they attacked his car and they shook it, and he reversed, managed to come out later that day. He died of a heart attack. They do mention that this is perhaps the one victim that died during those riots. And this is why June is Pride Month. They celebrate that event because that event was the only event in history to bring about the gay rights movement that exists today. From that day is when they began to have rights, and it only increased up until this day and what they have. So it's not Pride Month, it's Rebellion Month. Because the only way they got their right was through rebellion and transgression, and almost burnt police officers and killed that person and vandalized the streets and burnt that place. Why? Weren't the police doing their job? Weren't they doing their job? Then we say to the people, be law-abiding citizens. What are you celebrating in June? So when they celebrate in June, the question is, when you celebrate in June, you're actually telling people, whenever you feel like you have a right, go and be violent until you get your right. That's what you're celebrating. Is this the precedence that you want to teach communities and the people? That's what you want to teach them. So next time I feel like I have a right, so let's say some pedophile group begins to collect together, and all of a sudden they believe that they have a right to sleep with young boys and girls. You've already set the precedence for them, you've set the example for them, you've given them the green light to go and fight for it. With rebellion and violence. So it doesn't make sense. This is how you're going to talk this point through and bring your point about and across. You should be, you're the ones that say we need to be law-abiding citizens. Where is it? Well, law-abiding citizens according to what you like. And then you put the rest, you force them to be law-abiding citizens, and everyone else shut their mouth and follow it, but these people have an exception. And it's wrong. That is not supposed to be held accountable. What happened to those 2 police officers who almost got burnt? What happened to that taxi driver who died? Where's his rights? What happened? Even the idea is, when you go back to its roots and its origin, and even now, up until this day, they are building a monument at that stone wall inn, because that's where it first began. So it's becoming a historical place. People go there, they travel, tourist sighting, and lots of flags there, lots of these people there. They're building a monument. Wallah, I saw it. You go to Google Maps and Google Street, and you can see a nice big banner there. It says 54th, because in 2024 it will be 54 years since that event. It says the opening will be the 54th anniversary of Stonewall Rebellion. They've got the word rebellion. Other names for Stonewall riot, but this is the riots, rebellion, transgression, and this is not far from the reality of the Quran about the people of Lut. Lut alayhi salam said to his people, "Bal antum qawmun adun." You people are a bunch of transgressors. You people rebel. This is how he described his people. Their attitude did not change over time. The same word they were described by Lut, adun, is the exact same word used for them today and how they go about with their matters, which is the same word used to describe what happened 53 years ago. Adun. Now, for a person, when he's aware of these realities, and then these people do not ask, because anyone who gathers upon falsehood, anyone who unites upon falsehood, it's short-lived, doesn't live for long. This is the principle of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says that al-adawah wal-baghdha would begin to manifest within them. Hatred and enmity will happen among people who unite upon falsehood. And this is why once I did mention in my lesson a few months ago, and this continues until this day. Do you know that, of course, there's LGBT. Did you know that L in the L does not agree with the T? And the T's do not agree with the L's. And there is huge debate and rebellion against these 2 letters And these two communities within that community, they are at war with each other. There's something known as trans activism. This is to advocate for trans rights within that movement. They're fed up with how they're dealt with by the elves. And the elves do not stand these T's. And so they make flyers and banners and whatever it is. Something says, there is no L without the T. There is no L without the, or there is no LGBT without the T. And they go out throats with each other. Allah saved us. But the idea is, this is a principle. Anyone who unites upon falsehood, shortly, this will crumble bi'ithnillah one day. It doesn't last. It's a moment, as Lut alayhi salam said, it's a difficult day, it's a tough day, it's a terrible day. Bi'ithnillah ta'ala, it won't last. But people, if they ask for a practical solution, what did Allah decree and command Lut? What did he decree for him? Leave. He said to him, فَأَسْرِ بِأَهْلِكَ بِقِطْعٍ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ وَاتَّبِعْ أَدْبَارَهُمْ وَلَا يَلْتَفِتْ مِنكُمْ أَحَدٌ وَامْضُوا حَيْثُ تُؤْمَرُونَ. He commanded him to leave the city. Go. So, that's the solution. If a person is able to leave altogether, leave. If it's in your means. For 95% of people, it's not in their means. So intend this matter. Intend the matter, but I don't want to be among these people. So that if a punishment did come, and it took everyone away, at least you had an intention not to be among these people. Allah Azza wa Jal records it according to your intention. And like Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran, وَمَنْ يُهَاجِرْ وَمَنْ يَخْرُجْ مِنْ بَيْتِهِ مُهَاجِرًا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ يُدْرِكْهُ الْمَوْتُ فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Allah Azza wa Jal said about the one who intended to migrate, and he died before he continued his migration. His reward is upon Allah. He already earns the reward. Like the old man that was in Mecca. And he stayed in Mecca. He didn't want to go to Medina at the beginning when the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to an hijrah. But after a while he couldn't bear living in Mecca. Shirk wal kuffar and everyone's there. So he decided to pack up and go. He told his children, carry me and take me out to Al-Madinah. I want to join the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But they carried him, they took him out, not even 10 kilometers away from Al-Kaaba. And he sat down, he became terribly ill and he died from his sickness. He didn't even make it, not even 10 kilometers outside of Mecca. And he was very far away from his destination in Medina. And this ayah was revealed. Whoever leaves his house, intending migration, and dies on the road, his reward is upon Allah. Meaning it's immeasurable. It wasn't even mentioned because it cannot be mentioned. It's too huge. So it's like Allah said, it's upon thee. Leave it upon thee. But the idea is the intention. The intention was judged here, not the action, because the action wasn't fulfilled. So a person intends these matters, and with that, inshallah, Allah Azza wa Jal grants us safety and protection, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. Now, any other question?
I don't have a question, so I can share.
Salam.
Just after we're done, if I can just borrow your ears for 2 minutes.
Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Inshallah, no worries, inshallah. Anyone else have a question? Jayyid. Someone has a question to ask? Then we know a lot of people would like to ask after. And sometimes the questions that come after, I always wished that they were asked in public because there would have been a lot of benefit for us. But khair, inshallah. If you're finished.
Others question.
No. Salam.
I just want to ask you about living in non-religious countries.
No.
Like, well, according to Quran, like, it's not allowed. So I just want you to explain that. Is it allowed or not allowed?
No, okay. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First and foremost, when it comes to living in non-Muslim lands, and a non-Muslim land is defined as the land that does not practice or does not implement the law of Allah Azza wa Jalla. This is what a non-Muslim land is defined as. Whereas the Muslim land, when we define it, we say it is the land in which Allah Azza wa Jalla's Sharia is implemented. Not necessarily all of it. You will not get a land that will implement Allah's law completely. that was reserved only for the time of Rasulullah and the companions. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, خِلَافَةٌ عَلَى مِنْهَاجِ النُّبُوَّةِ. So the complete fulfillment of Allah Azza wa Jall's commands and laws and legislation only happened in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. Afterwards, it began to decrease little by little, throughout the Abbasi period, the Umayyi period, all the way until coming to our time. There is Muslim land today, of course, most definitely there is, but the Sharia is implemented perhaps at 5%, at 6%, known as al-ahwal al-shakhsiyya, right? Personal affairs of people, marriage, divorce, business dealings, all of that is dealt with according to Islamic law. So with that happening, these are still identified as Muslim lands. A non-Muslim land is a land that does not implement anything of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Zero. To live in that, ideally, the believers should be in a believing land. Ideally, we're speaking, just fundamentally, from a general perspective, looking at things in a broad manner. Muslims should be in Muslim lands. Non-Muslims are in non-Muslim lands. And then, if there was a Muslim land with a Khalifa, with proper implementation of the system, then it would be his duty to send groups out around the world so that they preach a deen and Islam. Ideally, this is how things should be functioning around. But of course, this is not happening. So now, the ulama, rahimahumullah, they mention that for a Muslim to live in a non-Muslim land, there are conditions. Number one, that this Muslim is supposed to have enough knowledge that protects him from shubhat. He must have knowledge that protects him from doubts. Because when you go to a non-Muslim land, meaning these are non-Muslims. So these are people that are not religious. They have no deen, they have no correct belief. So naturally, you are going to be affected by what they call and they preach to. Natural. And I was at the university yesterday, there's a university. And I asked the organizers that had organized the lecture, I said, how many Muslims is there on campus? He said, well, mashallah, there's many, hundreds. I said, how many of them have their deen with them? He said, yeah, you'll see them in the hall. We went, perhaps there was about 50, 60 people in, from hundreds. And as I walked to the university, just a mere walk, I haven't done this walk for many years because I've been out of here for 4 years. Just the mere walk in that city, from where we parked the car to the door. Wallah, with no exaggeration, I passed through 70 to 75% of the minor signs of the hour. The banks of a river, the pubs, the clubs, the barrels of wine, the stores being close to each other, the flags, the rainbow flags outside, the nakedness, the shamelessness, all of these are minor signs of the hour. That's within a span of 500 meters only. That's almost 75% of the minor signs. And I walked it once, just yesterday. Someone who's walking there frequent and regular and often and every single day of 4 or 5, whatever years of his life, decides masters, whatever it is, that will most definitely have an effect on a person. You are the environment you're in. You're in a good, healthy environment, you come out healthy and clean. You're in a bad environment, you're no doubt going to be tarnished and tainted by this evil that you're in, naturally. Right? You put a good apple with bad apples, it turns bad really quick. The idea is, that's why the ulama conditioned, if you wanted to live among them, you must have enough knowledge that protects you from doubts, from a shubuhat. These are people that are going to cast doubts in you. And look at the discussion of people today. All revolves around feminism, rights of women, can a woman work, financial independence. Why? What's all this? For a Muslim, this is very simple. I'll answer you all this in half a sentence. And more explanation, a quarter of a page, I've given you all the answers you need. Khalas, enough. Whereas these are called the hot topics, the big topics, the debatable topics. And Muslims, bit by bit, get sucked into this culture and in this matter. And this is a proof that these Muslims that live in us don't have knowledge that is protecting them from a shubhat. So you'll find a woman doing exactly that which the Western woman does. Not only that, advocating for it as well, rather than a step forward. Such a person doesn't have knowledge that protected him from the shubuhat, and he fell into the shubuhat. The second thing you need is knowledge that will protect you from ash-shahawat. Because that's the other problem. There are evil manners, temptations, and desires. A non-Muslim man, it's normal for them to practice a zina, boyfriend, girlfriend, relationships. It's very normal. Today, they celebrate virginity. It's celebrated. If someone is still a virgin and he's in high school, these are people that are like, they celebrate, this is something rare. What does this say? That the vast majority of Muslim and non-Muslim men practices these matters. And if a Muslim doesn't have enough knowledge to protect him from these evil temptations and desires, he falls into it. You see, the Quran protects you from doubts. Or Salat protects you from evil temptations. If a person's Quran and his Salat is not solid and strong, his Salat doesn't have protection. Such a person, ulama did not give concession to such people today among non-Muslim lands. Because it will destroy their deen, which is the most precious matter in their life. If he does not value his deen, then we really cannot give him advice. So this is what it is. This is what you need. If a person has this, then the ulama, rahimahumullah, in that case said, if he's among other Muslims, and for him to be there alone, no, not allowed. Even if you had that kind of knowledge to protect him. That one is dangerous. And that's why that some understood hadith in the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the way he said, أَنَا بَرِيءٌ مِمَّنْ يَعِيشُ بَيْنَ ظَهْرَانِيَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam declares innocence from the one who lives among the disbelievers. Some ulama understood the hadith to mean the one person who lives among the disbelievers, not the community of Muslims that live among the disbelievers. As a matter of fact, Imam al-Mawardi rahimahullah mentioned, and this is something that Ibn Hajar rahimahullah would mention in his book Al-Fath, so he quoted him. He said that if the Muslim lived in non-Muslim lands and they became a source of guidance for those around them, and they had an effect on them, they preached to them the good of the Islam, of its teachings and manners and dealings, and it had a positive influence and an impact on the society around them. And Imam al-Mawardi rahimahullah, in his opinion, he says it is wajib for those Muslims to remain in that non-Muslim land, and as a result, with their action, that land becomes a Muslim land. This is what he said. That's his opinion. So no doubt, and why I share this opinion? Because the reality is that the majority cannot leave. It's the majority. It's got to be real. You can't offer a solution that many people cannot do. The reality is people cannot leave. So if that's the case, take advantage of your time here. Be a source of guidance and inspiration for others. Yesterday in the university I was asked, how do we respond to Islamophobia? That's something that is witnessed in non-Muslim land. I said, very simple. Very simple. Islamophobia, phobia means fear. Islamophobia meaning there is people that feeds that. You only fear something when you don't have knowledge about it. When you're knowledgeable about something, your fear becomes less and less. The only way to face Islamophobia is with knowledge. Learn, and then practice your knowledge, preach your knowledge. Preach it through your words, your actions, your dealings, your manners with others, and bit by bit, Islamophobia fades. Now, this is what I have to say concerning Islam.
Alright, I've got a sister asking, I missed Ramadan when I was young, how can I pay that back?
She missed Ramadan when she was young, in the sense that...
So fasting, yeah, fasting.
So if she was over the age of puberty, you're assuming here, obviously, and she had missed days of Ramadan, and this is no different to the prayers. And so, she has to make up for those days, according to the more correct opinion. She estimates, she calculates how many days she neglected on purpose. She neglected them on purpose. She calculates for them, assumes how many days they were, if they were 90 days, 100 days, whatever it is, she calculates and she makes up for them throughout the year. Every second day, every third day, whatever she can do on that until she finishes them. Now, Allahu A'lam. Any other question?
Sorry, does she have to feed the poor?
Feeding the poor, if she's going to make up for them, she does not feed the poor. But if a person, let's say, missed days of Ramadan, he has from this Ramadan until next Ramadan to make him up. And due to laziness, so there was no justification for his action to delay them until the Ramadan that preceded, Ramadan that follows. If she delayed them, or he delayed them, let's say they were 10 days, you delayed them, not make them up from this Ramadan to this Ramadan, you rather delayed them until after Ramadan, then here there is an opinion that she shall fast the days, and in addition, feed a poor person for every day as a penalty for delaying them outside their due time. And the other opinion mentions that this is not supposed to be done, so if she just made up those 10 days, it would be fine. But it's safer to also feed a poor person if you had delayed them until past the Ramadan that came. Wallahu a'lam. Now, any other question?
Yes, we have a question from one of the sisters.
Yes.
She's learning to become an osteo. And in her, where she's learning, they have to practice on other people. They don't have choice between male and female. So she has to practice on a male. And sometimes they come not fully dressed. Also, they have to practice on her. They allowed her to come wearing tight clothes, but like she's not showing her skin, but she's still wearing like a tight top, tight pair of pants. But they still have to practice on it. So she wants to know the ruling on that.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First and foremost, these matters that were mentioned in this question fundamentally are impermissible. It is not allowed for a female doctor to attend to a male patient, and it is not allowed for a male patient doctor to attend to a female patient. It is impermissible fundamentally in Islam, unless there is a need. If there is a need, there is a necessity. There was no female doctor to attend to a male patient or to attend to a female patient at the time, then it is permissible to have a male patient, a doctor, attend to this female patient. The proof for this is that the companions, when they used to go out to war, those that were injured from the male companions were treated by female companions that accompanied the entire army out to the war. So their wounds were treated by female companions. Now there is an exception because there's bleeding, or could bleed to death, needs to be treated immediately. We're in a situation of life and death. There's no male to treat, there's only females, so go ahead with it. But that question there is no necessity whatsoever for a woman to be in an environment that brings this matter upon her. And I am definite that anyone who is going to go down that path and that career knows of these matters that are practiced in the university before he goes in. I'm not saying anything about the sister that asked the question, but I'm saying a Muslim should be somewhat open to these matters from the very beginning. He needs to see, if I go down that career, there's going to be lab work. Some of the lab work will require that I need to come dressed in a specific manner that is against my deen. And I need to be doing this and that with the other gender. As a result, from the very beginning, I say, this is a no for me in my deen. So I close the door. And I don't work myself with this question later on. You go into this study 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, then the question comes up. This is the answer. I can't change it. This is the answer. It is forbidden. It is haram to deal and touch a male patient and walk in with tight clothing. It is haram. Wallahi, my sisters in Islam, we are quick to accept these matters if it came in everything other than Islam. I'm telling you, this is something, I don't know. This is something you find in people. Yani today, if a woman earned a job at some place, wallahi, if from the policies of this work were that she must be covered from head to toe, she will cover from head to toe because work policy. I said, I have to cover. We come on the Emirates flight, the flight crew, women, part of their uniform is to cover some of their head. They don't have an issue to do that. What about Allah's policy on earth? Allah Azza wa Jalla has a policy for your earth. And that is that, as a human being, you're a servant of Allah Azza wa Jalla, He wants you to dress in a specific manner. How come we want to accept it when the university tells us, and we don't accept it when Allah tells us? Why? The university said, I have to wear in such a manner. The university said. But I'm saying to you, but Allah said this. Allah said this. Not the university. The Lord and the Creator of you and your university and your teachers and whoever's in there and their parents and their forefathers and all that. He said they're all their lords. They chose to disobey Him. And what are you going to choose? To disobey Him? No. You choose to disobey Him, you will know what's right. Very simple. Very simple. I think a believer that is faced with something like this, a woman that is faced with something like this, she strengthens her stance, she says Bismillah, and she does the right thing, and she does the matter that is most pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal, and she says, this is not for me. And she leaves it. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, and don't think that leaving it you're going to walk empty-handed. No, this doesn't happen. When you make a decision based on your deen and your relationship with Allah, don't ever think you walk out empty-handed and I came out with zero. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Man taraka shay'an lillahi awadahu Allahu khayran min. Whoever leaves something for the sake of Allah, Allah would replace it with something much better. And uqsimu billah. This is an authentic hadith that has its effect on a person who deals with this hadith in sincerity and honesty. If you left that university and that study, and this is between you and Allah, and you left it because Allah had forbid this to happen, and for me to be in an environment like this, wallahi, Allah Azza wa Jal is going to replace it with something much better. Doesn't necessarily have to be a job. Could be that Allah Azza wa Jal replaces it with marriage. You find a pious man, you get married, you establish a righteous family, you become a mother to righteous children who continue to make dua for you after your death. All of this is much more beneficial for you. We don't know. And I just gave you an example. Like Allah Azza wa Jal knows what He will replace you with. He might replace you with an upgraded level of iman. I don't know. You might then feel like no fitna can ever stand in your path anymore. We don't know. Take the hadith, deal with the hadith as it is. Inshallah ta'ala you'll see its benefit. Allahu Akbar. No.
Let's move to Islam.
Okay.
I think Jazakallah khair for your talk. It's very necessary to keep ourselves as a Muslim in all jobs in Australia with our conditions as a Muslim. It's not like as a Muslim, for example, female nurse or female doctor. Not this. We have to be there, but with Islamic address, and we have the right for that. We can go to the law, we can go to the government, because if all female nurse and doctors leave this job, then you are sisters. Where we can go to the hospital or to the doctor, or where we can find a Muslim female. So it's very necessary to keep us in that situation with Islamic conditions as much as we can. That's what Allah Ta'ala and what I agree. You mentioned, Sheikh, that if you cannot to be there in Islamic conditions, yes, this is, we have to, but as a Muslim, we have to be, we need female doctors, nurse doctors, and in every single things, we can to make it in Islamic environment or in Islamic conditions as much as we can. Allah Ta'ala.
الله يجزيك الخير.
The opinion.
الله يبارك فيك. استفدنا منك. Any other question? No.
Is it, can a Muslim become an air hostess?
Huh?
A Muslim sister, can she become an air flight attendant?
I don't know what an
Air flight.
Air flight attendant, serving on the airplane.
Yeah, this question. No, because this question is a branch of a bigger question. The bigger question is a woman allowed to work? That's the bigger question. So whether it's an air flight or anything else, it all goes back to the big question. But this